Hello everybody. In this video we're going to take a look at Nurbs Curves. You already know that if you want to create a polygon primitive, you can go to Create Polygon Primitives. For this example, I'm going to create a sphere. And I'll move it to the side. I can also create what is called a Nurbs Sphere. This is another type of geometry. Once again, I'm going to go to Create, but this time, instead of going to Polygon Primitives, I will go to Nurbs Primitives, and I will create a sphere. And I'll also move it to the side. If we take a look at these two spheres, they look pretty much identical. However, they're two very different types of geometry. If I select my polygon sphere and I right-click on it, you'll see that I have its components, vertices, edges, and faces. But if I select my Nurbs sphere and right-click on it, I'll have a different set of components for it. Control vertices, surface points, and isoparms, for example. But what we'll be looking at today are Nurbs curves. And we'll first look at two different options. Once again, I'm going to go to Create Nurbs Primitives, but this time I'm going to create a Nurbs circle. And now we have a Nurbs curve. You'll probably remember from earlier videos that when you create a polygon primitive, you can go to the inputs and you can change some of its initial inputs. For instance, subdivision axis, it's set to 20. I can bring that number lower or higher. I can also do the same for the subdivision height. We can do the same thing with our Nurbs curve. I'm going to select my Nurbs curve, and once again I'll go to the inputs and I will click on Make Nurbs Circle. And you'll see our inputs here in the channel box. Sweep, I will select the word here in this list and then middle mouse drag. And as you can see, I can change it from 360 degrees to any number I want, smaller than 360. I can also change degrees. Currently it's set to cubic. But if I click on the drop down here and change it to linear, I get something a little bit more angular. This actually brings up an important point. With my curve selected, I'm going to open up my attribute editor. Now remember that I currently have degree set to linear because I just changed it to linear. I'll open up my attribute editor. And what I want you to take notice of is that we currently have 8 spans and the degree is set to 1. I'm going to change degree back to cubic. And once again, go to my attribute editor. And what I want you to notice is that the spans are still set to 8. However, this time the degree is set to 3. The degree being set to 3 is what makes this a smooth curve rather than angular. With my curve still selected, I'm going to go back to my channel box, to the inputs, and I'm going to set it back to linear because that will make it a little bit easier for me to demonstrate sections. Currently, the sections are set to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see that there are 8 sides to this Nurbs circle right now. Let's see what happens if I increase or decrease these sections. I'll take it from, let's say, 8 to 4. Or I can increase it to 12, or whatever number I choose. I'm going to set it back to 8, and I'm also going to set it back to cubic so that we have a nice smooth Nurbs curve. Now, just like our polygon mesh, which has components, our Nurbs mesh, which has a different set of components, our Nurbs curve also has components. And if I right-click on it, I can select its different components. We'll take a look at Edit Point and Control Vertex. Edit points are these points here that I'm selecting, and they lay directly on the curve itself. If I select one and I move it, it'll change the shape of the circle. One thing I'd like you to notice when I move these edit points is that I have an edit point here, here, and here, for example. Notice that if I move this one, it'll actually affect the curve here and here as well. This makes working with edit points a little bit tricky, a little bit difficult. I find it easier to work with the control vertices, which are found here. Notice that the control vertices do not lay on the curve itself. But just like the edit points, the control vertices can be moved. To adjust the shape of your Nurbs curve. Let's take a look at one more Nurbs curve. This one will be interesting. I'm going to once again go to Create Nurbs Primitives, but this time instead of creating a circle, I'm going to create a square. And I'll just move it over here. This is a little bit different than the Nurbs circle that we looked at earlier. And let me show you why. Notice that if I select the different sides, what it has actually done is created 1, 2, 3, 4 different Nurbs curves. And we can verify that by opening up the outliner. Here you'll notice that I have my Polygon Sphere, my Nurbs Sphere, my Nurbs circle, which is no longer a circle, but more of an irregular shape, and I have my Nurbs square. Now, if I click on this plus symbol here in the outliner, what you'll notice is that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different Nurbs curves. I can select any one of these Nurbs curves, go to my inputs, and I can change the side one length as well as the side length 2 to change the dimensions. In addition, I can also change from cubic to linear. I don't think we'll see much of a difference here. And I can change the spans per side, which we will cover later. So far, everything that we have created has been under the Create menu, either under the Polygon Primitives or the Nurbs Primitives selections. I'm going to select everything in my scene and just delete because I want to show you that you can also create all of these objects from your shelf if you prefer. Right now, I'm under the Polygon Modeling tab, and of course I can create a polygon sphere from the shelf here. I can also go to my Curves Surfaces tab here, where I can create a Nurbs sphere if I wish. Or in the case of a Nurbs curve, I can select the Nurbs circle and create it that way as well. Let's take a look at something very important to understand about Nurbs curves. Remember, I've got a polygon sphere, a Nurbs sphere, and a Nurbs circle. I'm going to change my render from Arnold Render to Maya Software, and I'm going to render my scene. What I want you to notice is that my polygon sphere rendered, my Nurbs sphere rendered, however, the Nurbs curve did not render. Nurbs curves do not render. But while Nurbs curves don't render, we can use them to create geometry that will render. And I'll demonstrate that in my next video.